journals. We can't promise you publications. We don't write your papers as well. This is not a paper mill. We are an editing company where we handhold the clients from the first draft to the final draft by helping them, giving them critical reviews, and uh, handholding them through restructuring the manuscript, improving the language, fine-tuning the manuscript as required by the journal guidelines, picking out the right journals, ensuring that the reviewer comments are addressed appropriately, and so on. So all of these come together to have created a system which flows smoothly to not just train but also assist participants beyond these training sessions so that they publish better legitimate manuscripts. So when we talk about AI for research, one of the first places where AI can help is, of course, in the first step of literature search and review. And one quick switch you can make is, instead of starting your literature searches with Google Scholar, you can start it with Semantic Scholar. What makes the difference? Both of these tools, they kind of look and feel the same kind of an interface where you start with a set of keywords and the tools give you a set of papers. But Google Scholar is keyword based, heavily keyword based, whereas Semantic Scholar, as the name implies, it works on semantics, which means this tool looks beyond the keywords, looks at interactions, looks at the frequency repetitions of the keywords, which means that if you're lucky, instead of ending up with the tens of thousands of papers on Google Scholar, you might just have to deal with 400, 500 papers that are much more specific to your search string. In Google Scholar, the aim is, when you want to go wide, when you want to kind of stumble upon papers that are even marginally related to your questions, yes, Google Scholar might still work great. But when you are focused, when you want lesser number of papers, but more closely knit papers, then Semantic Scholar is a good start. Start with Semantic Scholar, finish off with Google Scholar is how I would like to do it. Now, when you have narrowed down on a set of papers, it doesn't make sense to keep running back to the ocean and fishing wide and far. You have a set of papers, and literature essentially is just one unified story. You have to find a way to find the different threads that are hanging around the story. And when you bring all of those different components together, your story is complete. You don't have to worry about what is beyond your storyline. When you're at that point, normally by convention, we find literature through what is called as citation mining, where when I'm reading a paper, I try and find all related papers. And the simplest way to do this is to follow the track of references and citations in the backward and forward direction. And this is called citation mining. How do I do it traditionally? Read a paper, find the reference, Google, find the paper, and then take a simple decision. Do I save the paper? Do I not save the paper? Now, this entire process is pretty straightforward. No creativity whatsoever required, has a clean set of rules, which means an AI usually does a much better job than you can, and that is why tools like Litmaps have become popular for finding directional literature, not far and wide, but literature that is laser focused to find just the different threads of your story. You can start with a set of keywords if you want. You can start with a list of papers. Ideally, starting with a list of papers, what works. But when you start with even one paper, this is the first output that you see, where based on this one output, I have an entire set of 20 papers. Each of these circles represent a paper. And I also get to see the citations and reference connections here. Now, these 20 papers are heavily curated to have the highest connections with my paper, and Litmaps is designed for your decision-making process as well, which means I get to read the abstract and the title of the paper. The title is a hyperlink. I can just click on the title and I'm taken to the original journal page where I can read the full text if so required and take a simple decision. Do I save this paper? Do I not save this paper? I save the paper and then I use this new updated version of my collection to keep finding more and more heavily linked papers. Now I have introduced at least two tools. One is Semantic Scholar, one is Litmaps. When do I use what? When I'm still fishing around, when I still am not sure of the direction I want to take for collection of my literature, Semantic Scholar looks good. But when I have decided on a collection of papers, I've decided this is my story, this is where I want to be a part of, where my research project is going to be a part of, then using directional tools like Litmaps makes a lot of sense. Litmaps is just one of the tools. You also have alternatives like Connected Papers, Insightful, Research Rabbit, and so on. I do know that Google Scholar recently overwent, had an overhaul where they very lately decided they're going to introduce this AI search feature called Scholar Labs. What I feel is this is too little, too late, because there have been other tools like Consensus that have been doing this for at least 3+ years, where when you ask a question, the tool gives you the consensus of what literature feels like. So when you ask the yes or no question, where do the literature lean towards? Are most literature telling me yes, most literature telling me no, and so on. And you also get a nice detailed answer like the one you see on the screen. uh, Work around with prompt engineering. I just had to set a few filters, and the answer I get is a properly summarized answer from multiple papers. Even with the first summarized line, you see it is not from one single paper, but from two different papers. And when I'm on the live tool, I can just hover my mouse over the numbers here, and it will take me to the original paper, ensuring that I don't have to trust this AI tool. I have the original source. I can verify the information for myself before I decide to use it on my paper draft. Two questions here, or rather, two answers, two clarifications here. The content here is not exactly plagiarized. It is a proper summary, just that it is an AI generated summary, which means, technically speaking, this is almost plagiarism free content, which I could use as it is on my manuscript. But I cannot, because this content, though it is not plagiarized, it is still AI generated content, and there are strict guidelines against using AI generated content, which means this is a great starting point. If I'm staring at a blank page, if I'm crippled by writer's block, I no longer have to be, because I have a starting point from which I can build on my ideas, I can build on my framework. But over reliance on this content will be detrimental. At the end of the day, when my manuscript is passed through and a checking tool like Turnitin, both for plug and for AI content, it might not show up well, because though this content will eventually be edited out over the process of manuscript editing, it is still AI generated content. You should have a system in place to make sure that you mark AI generated content on your manuscripts when you use them on your drafts. The next set of tools take this answering my research questions one step further, where tools like Elicit don't just give me a summary answer, they help me create what is called a literature matrix, where my question is answered based on 100 papers. Say, for instance, when you're using a tool like SciSpace, you have 100 papers that are added to this nice literature table, where I can extract very specific information from across these papers. If I'm someone writing a research proposal, I'm not really worried about results in these individual papers. I'm not worried much about the entire part of the discussion. I just want to see the question that each of these papers have picked. I'm interested in the limitations of the study. I am also slightly interested in the future directions proposed by the authors, because just between these sections, it's easy for me to see if there is a pattern of certain missing links to my research tapestry. Are there some missing pieces of the puzzle that seem to be so important that so many papers keep talking about this missing piece, but somehow nobody has been able to plug this gap or find a solution to this problem? If I can pick the problem and come up with a solution, that would be a good research proposal in itself. I don't have to always reinvent the wheel. I can just pick problems with the wheel and then sort it for a better, efficient driving experience. Now, all of these tools I'm talking here would work really great if we are talking about a narrative review. But what happens when I am to do something more structured like a systematic review? So on systematic reviews, every single step of the process has to be documented, which means the tools that work so far might not work. I might have to look for other tools that are specifically built for SLRs, like Ryan, for instance, where you can take collective decisions on the paper selection, and also it offers some support on the extraction part as well. With the release of AI tools like AutoSR, the entire question of where do humans stand on the research ecosystem was rekindled last year, because this tool here can run or can create an entire Systematic literature review in a few hours, what normally takes months or sometimes 2.5 years when it is exhaustive, can be done in a few hours. If so, and the accuracy was also not really bad enough. So, as these AI tools evolve over time, should we humans step aside and hand over the major part of data extraction and analysis to these AI tools? Is a question. It is still an open-ended question. But when we look at the ethical perspective with respect to these literature search tools, not much ethics to consider because these tools, they are not the end in themselves. They serve a certain purpose along the entire process of literature search. They don't take decisions for you, but rather they act as these assistants who go run around, pick the most appropriate papers, and you still have major control over what happens to these papers, what papers get saved, and what get rejected out when used rightly. I think these set of tools are one of those tools which have very limited controversy around their use when it comes to the ethical perspectives. The problem with AI in the past 3 years is we want everything to be fancy, we want everything to have an AI component. Sometimes this clouds are reasoning to see that there are tools like Obsidian, for instance, which do not have an AI component in their primary interface, but still do a great job of whatever they are doing. Obsidian, for instance, in knowledge management systems, where at one place you can manage all of your different kinds of documents. PDFs can be thrown in, PPTs can be thrown in, figures, links, interface. And yes, Obsidian is pretty close to what Notebook LM and Notion can do, but it offers much more on the free version. Now, reading scientific papers, especially when you are a young researcher not much acquainted with the field, was definitely a daunting task for all of us. If I were doing my PhD, my early years of research at the moment, I would not shy away from using tools like the Copilot option on SciSpace, where I can just upload a PDF I'm reading, and anytime I don't understand a certain section of the paper, I can just highlight the section and ask for explain text, or I can ask the tool to go pull out related papers if I find certain parts of the text really interesting. This tool not just gives me papers related to the entire figure out your way around these papers. Yes, this tool can also summarize. It can also give you ready-made summaries. It can also make you lazy. I can just throw in a PDF version of the paper or a few papers in some of the tools and then let the tool summarize for me without taking the effort of reading the paper. Now, that could be disastrous. That could mean that I am not fact checking the information coming out of this AI. And as good as these tools are at summarizing, they don't always understand the nuances, the depths of scientific research at times. So, when I let the tool take over the reading process, it is problematic. But when I use the tool to augment my reading process to get quick explanations on some of these very tough lines, very cryptic lines that can appear on these papers, then I guess I'm using it right. The other ways in which AI can come in handy in understanding literature is when they offer tools like Speechify and listening.io, for instance, where I don't have to sit down and read papers always. I can just upload my papers, any form of the papers, into these tools and listen to the papers as I am doing something else. This is important because it gives me an additional medium through which I can interact with these papers. And these tools, by extension, can also be used for listening to my own content because we don't have MS Word, though MS Word does have an option where it can read aloud content. We don't always carry MS Word around in all our smart devices. With such tools, I can have my notes uploaded into any of these tools on my smart device and I can listen to my own writing. Why is this important? This is important because reading saturates your brain after a certain level of revisions. It's very difficult for a person to catch errors on their own writing. They are too close to it to see the flaws. So in that case, it helps me if I can just listen to my own writing, especially those sentences that are really convoluted. Words that make no sense whatsoever and transitions that are clumsy, they stick out like a sore thumb when you listen to the content, helping me be a better writer in turn. Now, summarizing tools, most of the tools we talked about until this point, they also have a feature of summaries. But then there are also exclusive tools like Scholarcy, for instance, which are built for summarizing papers into these nice flashcards, into PPTs, into a small set of notes, and so on. Summarizing is where it gets problematic with AI because these tools, most of the tools have evolved beyond the question of accuracy. There was a time when we were accusing these tools of not being accurate enough. They were almost closely in lines with ChatGPT in terms of giving in the wrong sources, quoting sources that did not exist, and so on. But over the years, these academia specific or research specific tools have definitely evolved to the point where we no longer get to complain about the accuracy, but these tools still lack the nuance of human reading. They are not exactly as good at catching patterns which are not obvious. And also, AI summarized content is still AI generated content. For these reasons, summarizing tools have to be used really cautiously. But when you're talking about tools like Audio Pen, which are good transcribers, where it's like having a personal assistant trail you all along the day, capturing your thoughts, converting them into written content, but then also cleaning up your content, proofreading, and giving you something really good enough and formal to use as a starting point, there are not much real problems. One of the concerns I might have is about data privacy. I might not dictate the most sensitive content into audio pen, but if it is everyday writing, if it is just bits and pieces of my literature review or bits and pieces of my proposal, then I would definitely use these tools because I don't have to sit down at a system. I don't have to always have a proper setup for me to write. I can just jot down my thoughts as I go. I can just dictate these notes into my smartphone. And at the end of the day, I can collect all of these thoughts in a well written format, properly proofread and polished as well, helping me definitely get on the writing process much easier. Now, using AI for generating ideas or using AI as assistants to quickly go grab those ideas you know exist somewhere but you're not sure where they exist is something completely different from using AI for creating images. Not that written content does not have copyright issues, but these copyright issues seem to be much starker, or rather, publishers and other players are much more worried about copyright issues when it comes to images. For that reason, publishers explicitly ban the use of AI generated images within the manuscript. Using AI for graphical abstracts are even not allowed at the moment. So, despite the availability of quite a number of AI tools for generating images, AI generated images are still not allowed within the publishing space, but you can still use them on your presentations to kind of jazz them up a bit if you are interested. So, are there tools that can actually help with image creation? Yes, one of the fields where there are quite a high number of publications include the medical and health sciences field. So, in such fields, there are exclusive tools like BioRender for creating different kinds of images. But in all the other respects, so specifically when we are talking about social sciences, management sciences, and so on, where there are specific kinds of images that have to be generated, and you will have to look for tools which give you complete control over the final output. It could be a flow chart, it could be a simple summary of a proposal, it could be your Gantt charts to explain the timelines of the project, or it could be, say, a lean proposal, for instance. So, all of this is okay to be made with AI. The only condition you should be looking for is where these outputs are completely editable. Every single text has to be editable. In that case, you can consider using hybrid tools like eDrawMax, which do have an AI component into them, but the final output is completely editable, which means you get the structure quickly, you get the baseline quickly, but you still own the output. You have control over how your content gets You can also quickly make presentations that is similar to what you can get out of Canva. And you can also make other interactive content like videos, for instance, all can happen on one platform. But Bisme also offers quite a lot of control on the final output, making it much better to use than conventional tools like Midjourney, which go from prompt to the output with not much you can do in between. So with these tools, if you use the AI component, if AI design most part of the picture, one good thing you can do is just simply add a footnote saying that the image was generated using such and such AI tool, and then let the editor decide if they want to let you use the image as it is or if a revision is required. So transparency is what will keep the conversation going right now. It's better that you are upfront and transparent about the use of AI tools rather than waiting for a reviewer to point it out to add declarations at a later point in time. AI definitely has made processing data much more easier. And with quantitative data, yes, learning Python, R, and mastering SPSS is still the best way to go. But in cases where you want to explore AI tools for analyzing quantitative data, one of the good places to start is Julius, a tool that has been quite reliable for the past 2+ years at least, where you can hold conversations like what you would do with ChatGPT. You can upload your data, a simple Excel sheet, and you can describe the data to Julius and ask for suggestions as to what kind of statistical tool will help you achieve the insight you're looking for. You can also directly go in and say the data in columns 1, 2, 3, and 4 have to be processed in a certain way. Say run an ANOVA on columns 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the tool will go ahead, convert your natural language prompt into a Python code. And this Python code is editable. You can check the Python code. This is where humans with certain skills become valuable. Though the tool can edit a code, a tool cannot vet itself to see if it is right or wrong. This is where human intervention becomes important to see that the code written is good enough. It's exactly trying to do what your natural language prompt asks it to do. And then the tool runs the code on your data, comes back with the insight you are looking for. And then one simple prompt where you ask the tool to convert the insight into a visual, the tool can do that as well. It also creates a very base minimal visual. Say in case of an ANOVA, you want to follow it up with a box plot, that is possible. Or you want to do a post-hoc analysis after running an ANOVA, that is also possible. All of these through simple natural language prompts is what makes these tools really interesting. Now, Julius works with quantitative data. But what happens with quantitative data, like focus group data, interview data, for instance, where gathering insights is a bit more nuanced and it takes a bit more of language processing to gather insights to see patterns across the replies or responses from multiple users, for instance. There are tools like Insight 7 that offer to do this to get you insights from qualitative data, which is much more diverse sometimes. How about managing these references? Considering that reference management is one of the heels, I would say, of AI help us manage references. We don't exactly need an AI to manage references, I would say, considering we already have amazing tools like Zotero and Mentally, which help you manage your literature, manage your citations and references within multiple platforms as well. But if you are insistent on having an AI tools, there are AI tools that can help you manage references like, say, you have Petal AI, you have Tricks, for instance, which can help you change styles for your references and so on. But reference management and managers as a whole might become redundant in the coming years if we are to embrace writing AI tools like Paperpal, Trinka, Jenny, for instance, because several of these AI tools that have a writing component, that have an editing component to them, those tools are also slowly building in their own reference management systems, which means you don't need a writer, you don't need a separate reference manager. These two are combined into one interface, and most of them do work within your MS Word interfaces, making life pretty easier. Tricks can come in handy for quick conversion of references when there is no other code. Now, when it comes to languages, this is where the use of AI gets a bit tricky, because English has been sometimes a problem for researchers from countries where English is not their first language. Just because the language is not good, good research sometimes does get swept under the carpet, simply because the language could not meet up to the standards, or rather, the meaning could not be conveyed effectively to the pan global audience that most research really caters to. Now, should we allow AI tools to level the field? Is the question. So, when we look at it from a very simpleton frame of view, we feel that yes, this is a great boon for researchers who don't have the same access, who know several other languages except for English, who do good research as well. But this also gets problematic, because where do you draw the line? Where do you use AI to just hone on your language? Where do you not use AI? Because several of these polishing tools, language editing tools, PaperPal, for instance, which is from Heritage, have really crossed over the boundary of being simple language polishing tools. PaperPal, for instance, now is the super tool where you can start with a base idea, brainstorm with the tool, use it as a soundboard for expanding on the idea. You can create an outline. The tool will also help you find information under each of these subheadings with proper citations, with a properly generated reference list. It even helps you manage your references and citations. It has an inbuilt library where you can store your literature. It has proofreading capabilities. It has an AI reviewer. It has several checks inbuilt, whatnot. So PaperPal is one of the top tools which offers a complete solution for your writing requirements. All of this within your MS Word interface or Google Docs interface, or with LaTeX applications like Overleaf for instance. So this is where it begs the question of, where do we stop these tools? What is okay? What is not okay? Nobody has the answers at the moment. So one simple preemptive step you can have when using such extensive tools is to have a system in place where you can highlight information that you gather using an AI tool, so that there's a clear distinction between what was AI generated, what was generated by you or the human author group, and at a later out these AI written or AI generated sections to ensure that your paper is still yours and the AI content is less as well. Not a fan of AI content detectors, but when we are talking about ethics, the line has to be drawn somewhere. But where, by whom, what is right, what is wrong is not a question that we have answers to at the moment. Maybe down the lane, we will reimagine this entire idea of research, because we cannot fit AI into existing systems. Existing systems were not built for AI. They are not AI proof, be it the assessments that we have, the assignments that we have for students, or the research paper model we have today. It has been made kind of obsolete with the introduction of AI. So the problem is not quick band-aids like building better AI content detectors. It is going back to the drawing board and reimagining research communication, and teaching as a whole. So when we were all young researchers, I'm pretty sure most of the young researchers found writing their thesis one of the most daunting parts, especially filling up the literature review. How we wish there was a magic wand which can kind of get this job done, because it is easy to sit across the labs 24 by 7, run experiments, collect data, run around different cities to find the right participants even and collect information. But what was difficult was to sit down and actually do a literature review. And that dream of having a magic wand did come true with tools like Jenny, where with one exhaustive prompt, you can just set the tool to finish up a good enough literature review. With tools like Answer This, for instance, you can have a 5,000, 6,000 word literature review whipped up in 2 to 3 minutes with proper citations. And most of the deep review tools or deep research tools from SciSpace, Answer This, Elicit, they can give you complete literature reviews, 5,000, 6,000 words, with citations, with references, all in under 2 to 3 minutes at the max, even when you're working on a very glitchy internet connection. Now, this begs the question of where does the role of a human researcher end? How far can we let the AI really run the show? Let's hope we have answers soon. Formatting manuscripts is, I think, the only aspect of manuscript writing which unnecessarily takes away a lot of time from the researcher, because you are expected to present certain margins, maintain certain font types, font sizes, spaces, and whatnot. And also, there are word count limits on the manuscripts. We don't always have much reliable tools to do this, but SciSpace has been at the forefront of giving solutions for manuscript formatting. And now SciSpace has an exclusive agentic AI application that can help you format your manuscripts as required by several journal guidelines. So if you are at a crossroad, you can of course try it. The next challenge to be tackled with manuscripts is looking beyond the abstract to conclusion block, because there are so many things that have to be taken care of in the title page, so many things to be taken care of in the declarations, references. You'll have to check if references are old, if all references have citations, all citations have references, the citations for your figures and tables, and PaperPal has a solution for this in the form of manuscript check, where you can upload your completed manuscripts and the tool checks your manuscript for close to 30 different aspects, the generic aspects that are expected out of a manuscript. For a journal, even after running a manuscript check from PaperPal, you still have to cross check your manuscript with the submission guidelines of your particular journal to ensure all criteria are met. But the overarching stuff is taken care of by manuscript check from PaperPal. Now, no matter how careful you are in preparing the manuscript, when the manuscript goes through this much dreaded process called peer review, most manuscripts do get ripped apart. So, is there a way that this can be avoided, or can the damage be minimized? As peer review process is one of the longest blocks that take up so much time in the entire publication process. Each round of peer review takes at least 2 to 3 months when done correctly, which means if your paper undergoes around 4 rounds of peer review, that is easily 1 year delay from submission of your manuscript to the actual publication. How can we reduce the number of peer reviews? Simply by submitting a manuscript that is much better, simply by preemptively addressing what potential comments the peer reviewers can offer you. And here, if you have mentors who are good at reviewing papers, who are willing to take this additional load of reviewing your papers and giving you critical review, there is nothing like that. But in cases where that is not possible, there are AI tools like PaperWizard, which are slowly, I'm not calling any of them perfect yet, but they are slowly building to have a system where you can have a great mock peer review and you can revise your manuscript based on these mock peer review comments. The end manuscript is better. The journal editors are happy because they get to start with a good enough manuscript. The peer reviewers are also happy because most of the critique that they have has been addressed already. And on your side, you're happy because your manuscript underwent just 1 or 2 rounds of peer review, saving you months of toil in actually getting your paper published. Now, with respect to the last three tools, when we are talking about tools for checking your manuscript, for giving you mock peer reviews, or for editing, language, proofreading, polishing of your manuscript, these tools do not really introduce much ethical issues. When you talk about language tools, if the tools are used for grammar checks, simple language checks, it's fine. The problem is when these tools are used for paraphrasing large chunks of content, because AI paraphrased content is also AI generated content at the moment. An AI content detector will not be able to differentiate between a content that was rewritten 100 times by a human and just once paraphrased using an AI tool, because AI content detectors look at the final output, and if there are AI flags on the final output, no matter how much of human effort went into the paper will still be flagged as AI generated. So, yes, proofreading, yes. If you're thinking about paraphrasing, using AI is a bad choice. But with proofreading tools, with formatting tools, with mock peer review tools, these tools don't make major changes into your manuscript. They check your manuscript, give you a report, and you have complete control over what changes go into the manuscript. In most cases, you're the one who's making the changes. Therefore, no concerns of AI content, no concerns of ethical breaches on your actual writing process. But there is a much larger threat with these tools. What you will have to check is you have to check for the data privacy policies across these tools, because you are handing over a raw manuscript, a result that came out of 2, 3 years of efforts, intense research and writing, and you cannot afford to have the manuscript privacy of the manuscript breach before it gets published. So anytime you use some of these tools, do not take anyone's word for granted. You do your homework, check for the privacy policies, and ensure that the privacy policies are airtight so that your paper, your data, your research is safeguarded. Now, good research does not only come from good researchers, it also comes from the fact that you have good enough funding to explore whatever that you're trying to do. So, are there AI tools that can help me with research proposals and in helping me find the appropriate grant agencies, especially the grants that are open right now and are a good match to my proposal? Yes, good. The good news is tools exist to do that, like Atom, for instance. The bad news is that Atom works only for US grants, will not work in the Indian context. So, if we have an equivalent to Atom, then you will have an interface where you can prepare your proposal, and the AI will automatically match your proposal to any open funding opportunities that are available at the moment. And you can go ahead and submit your proposal also from within the same platform. I do wish we have something like that, but I have tried finding an equivalent. I don't see any at the moment. How about making presentations? Considering that making those midnight PPTs are a part of academia, how good are AI tools for making presentations? Here again, just like with any other AI tool, there are good tools like Dictopus, Gamma. I'm not sure how many of you use Dictopus, but I'm sure most of you use Gamma. Dictopus started out pretty strong early, but I guess Gamma is the most popular one at the moment. You have Prezi, you have Beautiful AI, and 100 other options. Just like with any other AI tool, most AI tools, or almost all the AI tools, they work great in the hands of an expert or a semi-expert. People who know what the output has to be, they can vet the output, they can quickly weed out what is not accurate. The problem is when young researchers who don't understand the subject fully, when they decide to use these AI tools to go from a prompt to the final deck, that is when it gets a bit problematic. A better way to use these AI tools is when you're not going in with a simple prompt, but rather you have already done your homework, you know what your presentation has to look like, you have the outline, you have the notes jotted down. You can simply upload your notes. It can be a picture, it can be a Word document. These tools take very varied kinds of documents as the input, and then you can ask these tools to build a deck based on your notes. I think that is the best way to use these presentation makers. At the end of the day, good talks are not about good PPTs or texts. Good talks come from good communicators, and considering academia has a lot of talking going around, it's easy, or rather, it's important to have tools like Poised, for instance, which can act as your speaking coaches, especially for your presentations, where you can finish your presentation in the middle of the night and then just sit with these tools on a video call to present your work, get feedback on the use of words, your face. Some of these tools, when they advance further, I'm sure they'll also talk about body language, they'll talk about eye contact and whatnot, helping you hone on your speaking skills, which will make sure your presentations are much better. Now, over the past 3 years, one inevitable question that has been asked across these AI sessions is, okay, Soumya, it's all great that you're telling us about 100 different AI tools, but can I have just one or two tools that will take care of most of my requirements? It's pretty exhausting to keep track of so many tools, to keep these many tools logged in, and then also to avail the prime version, pro version of these tools, because almost all the tools I discussed today, they are not free tools, they are freemium tools, which free for you to check them out. But if you want to get the best out of these tools, you still have to go for the paid version. So is there one tool where I just pay, I get the subscription, it does most of the work around scientific writing and publishing? A year ago, if you had asked me this question, my answer would be sorry, such a tool does not exist. But today, the answer has evolved to say that yes, agentic AI like SciSpace do have the potential to be your one stop solution for all your requirements around scientific writing and publishing. The problem boils down to the cost taking. Uh, Conventional, the standard version of SciSpace or even the deep review feature, just one step below the deep review feature, will cost you around 700 to 800 rupees a month. But with respect to agentic AI, for very limited number of credits, you have to shell out around 5,000 every month to get access to the complete version of agentic AI. And that also happens only when you go for the annual subscription, which means that one go you'll have to shell out close to 50, 60,000 plus tax, I believe, for having access to agentic AI. But they do a good job at the moment, and I'm pretty sure they'll evolve to get better over the years as well. Now that we have talked about different tools, what are the ethics around these tools? I have already covered the ethical concerns for each category of tools as we went along, but overarchingly, if there is one thing that publishers do not want us to do, it is to let these tools behave like co-authors, where these tools contribute to such an extent that they qualify to become a co-author, and in no case can AI be added as a co-author to one of your papers at the moment. This did happen, and publishers did wake up with a huge shock, and they all agree that no, AI cannot be a co-author. Where can AI be used without much concerns? You can use, there are again two schools of thoughts here. On one side, there are people who agree that you can use AI in the very early stages for brainstorming, for ideation, and then you can build on the idea generated by AI. But the question is, if you let AI come out with all the ideas, and if you're just the writer, if you're just the aggregator on the project, does that make you a good researcher? Is the question. Some argue that AI should be allowed in the later stages just for proofreading, restructuring, and so on. Now, though this does not really raise any existential crisis questions around what is the role of a human researcher, this does introduce the problem of AI generated content when the manuscript is run through AI content detectors. So you will have to find the right balance. You can use AI for brainstorming outside of your manuscript. You can use AI for polishing for grammar. Anything in between has to be always declared appropriately using the appropriate declaration statement. So one tip that I always have is never mix your brainstorming canvas with your writing canvas. Have one platform where you brainstorm, where you play around with ideas, where you co-create with AI. But then when it comes to the actual draft of the manuscript, do not copy paste any content from anywhere. Just like how you would not do it without paraphrasing, don't include AI written content as well. Instead, read AI content, read content that are brought from different sources. Go back to the original sources with the information and you do the paraphrasing and writing. That is the most ethical way to go around this. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. These AI content detectors, are they good enough? No, they are not. They are problematic simply because you cannot differentiate between AI generated content and human generated content, considering that all AI generated content are some versions of human content because we train these AI tools using human written, human generated data, which means there are going to be similarities, there are going to be certain, a lot of overlaps as well, right? So, how do we tackle this? The ideal way is to do away with AI content detectors and rethink frameworks to ensure that despite the availability of AI tools, the human skill part of the task can still be evaluated one way or the other. Simply introducing AI content detectors are not going to work because these AI content detectors have already made us lose some of our favorite words like nuance, tapestry, delve, and so on. Just because ChatGPT uses these words happen to be words as well. And now I am scared to use these words in my writing. And at least speaking, nobody can claim that I use AI generated content for the sessions, but I'm really scared of using these words on my LinkedIn post, for instance, because there will be one or the other person popping up out of nowhere to accuse me of having used AI for generating my LinkedIn posts and comments and whatnot, despite me spending hours actually sitting down to write those things. So AI content detectors are very partial towards people who do not know the language, but then also to people like Taruchi who know the language way too well. So just looking at sentence complexity, these fancy terms like perplexity, burstiness will not help solve this crisis of overuse, over reliance of AI. It is going to take much more work than that. Now, the other doom of this AI ecosystem are humanizers. So, can I use a humanizer to humanize my AI generated content so that AI content detectors do not detect it? Has been a very annoying question. And it's a very scary question as well. So, where are we really headed? We have companies that released AI tools, then companies that decided that, okay, AI generated content is not good. So, they developed AI content detectors. And then some rebels wanted to rebel against these content detectors, so they developed humanizers. And recently, Turnitin developed a feature on its AI content detector called the anti-humanizer. So AI content detector, humanizer, now the anti-humanizer.
Hello.
What is next? So what happens next? Who benefit out of all of this? Definitely not the researchers, just the companies that are able to come up with these tools. So are we going to keep feeding into this frenzy? Is the question that we should all ask. There is this nice story in Greek mythology which talks about how fire originated in the human hands. There was a time when fire belonged only to the gods, and it was at this time that a young god called Prometheus, he was very fond of humans. So Prometheus decides one day that these poor humans are suffering too much. If they have fire, their lives might be slightly better. So he brings fire from the heavens down to the humans, and at least as per the mythology, this is how fire was discovered by the humans. I'm not sure how true this is, but I'm pretty sure that when fire was discovered for the first time, not all humans were happy. Some of our ancestors, they would have been pretty excited about this thing because now they can keep themselves warm, they can see in the dark, they can travel at night, they can cook their food, they can protect themselves from animals and so on. But I'm sure there would have been a good chunk of our pessimistic ancestors who saw the dangers of this bright blazing thing, saw that this thing could destroy entire humankind, the forest, the earth they knew as of then. And both of them were right. Fire, as lot many people say, fire is the but then the pessimists were not wrong again. But because we had the pessimists today, we have systems in place that can help us use fire in a pretty safe environment. Even today, if you let fire run amok, it is going to destroy everything we know. But because we have these systems in place to correctly use fire, we are able to get the best out of it. So, where am I going with this story? Today, we have a new fire amongst us, and that fire is called AI or Gen AI specifically. Gen AI is scary on most days. It's pretty confusing on the other days. It is throwing the entire humankind into existential crisis, at least those humans who know about Gen AI. We have started questioning our role. We have started questioning our place in this entire chain for sure. But that does not make AI the villain. It all boils down to good decisions. So I hope we take the right decisions. We use AI for the right things, where we outsource mundane tasks, where we simplify our lives while retaining the core human values and human skills, because that would be the right way to use any technology. Just like everything else before AI, the problem is not technology, the problem is still humans who make decisions as to how they want to use technology. On that note, thank you for your attention. And this is where you can reach me beyond the session. The QR code will take you to my LinkedIn page where I write at least 2 to 3 days in a week around AI tools for research, but then also AI tools and the challenges of using AI within teaching ecosystems. I'm not great with calls, but I'm good with WhatsApp. So if you have a question, if you want to share something around AI for research and education, you can always drop me a text on WhatsApp. And for any other official communication, it could be for sessions, or it could be for editing your manuscripts. You can just drop an email into our official ID, and me or someone from the team will get back to you. And recently, we decided that we are going to put together certain recordings from open sessions into one YouTube channel so that you have access to sessions, small notes on different aspects around AI for research and teaching in one place. And this is the code that will take you to the YouTube link. And this is where you can leave your feedback for me personally about the session, and where else would you like to see the use of AI in research and education. And as a thank you note, when you submit the feedback form, you get a PDF list of tools that you can use. So it will be a list of all the tools we discussed. And for each aspect, there will also be alternatives included into the list so that you have a ready to refer list you can use. I'm going to share these information as links as well so that it is easier for you to have access to them. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can just go ahead, drop them into the chat box. But then you can, also unmute yourself and ask questions if you're allowed to do that. I'm not sure. I don't see any questions in the chat box. It's on the Q&A tab, is it? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take this question. So can we use ChatGPT for summarization of a paper? I'm also dropping it into the Q&A box so that you can have access to the links in the Q&A box as well. To answer the question, ChatGPT to summarize the paper is okay as long as you're just trying to get a quick overview of the paper and you're not going to build your own manuscript or your literature review based on the summary generated by ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of the AI tools for that. So I might not share the PPT as it is, but I think you will have access to the recordings. You should reach out to the organizers for that. But ensure that you submit the feedback form and you get a PDF list of all the tools we have discussed about. And Dr. Chandra Kumar, the LinkedIn profile is just there on the chat box. It's also here on the Q&A, so you can just get it from there. Okay. So to answer your question, in simple terms, yes, AI has already been having quite an impact on the employment scenario. There are companies that have laid off quite a large number of employees because their work could be replaced by AI. So yes, the employment scenario is definitely changing big time with tech companies, even otherwise with the advent of AI. Just looking up for the scroll bar. So how to create a graph of all algorithms used in a literature review? I am not exactly sure what that question is supposed to mean, Ms. Jaya Pratibha. Can you expand on that a bit so that we can answer it? Okay. So I think as a reviewer, there is a slight bottleneck here, because when you are the author, you can use AI to review your manuscript. You can apply as much AI as you want because you own the manuscript. But when you're a reviewer, you really cannot apply AI tools to the manuscript because you don't own the manuscript. And in cases of potential data breaches, this could be disastrous. I think for now, until you really have institutional approved or publishers approved AI tools that you can use as a reviewer, finding the originality has to still happen manually. You cannot simply upload the manuscript and check for originality, but you can just take up the core message of the manuscript and throw it into these literature matrix tools like SciSpace, Elicit, answer this, so that you can also set filters and then see if there are any potential manuscripts that match the same theme of the paper that you are reviewing. I do wish that there was a system where you can simply upload a paper to do these checks. But one problem is, yeah, you have all these general tools where you can do it. The major problem is the data privacy, and that you don't have any authorship, or you don't have any real control over the manuscript that you receive as a reviewer. So you still have to do certain things manually, I believe. Humanizer detector is a detector that can even detect humanized text. Turnitin has that option now. How do you identify Q1 journals? Simply by setting the filter to Q1 on your Scopus search. So when you are searching for your journals on, say, sites like Scopus, there are filters you can. So you can just set the filter to identify only Q1 journals for your top. Yes, you have my details here. Um, Mr. Pankaj, I really don't have a suggestion for best humanizer, because I don't think humanizers actually do a good job. Humanizers kind of dumb down the content, they miss the entire soul of the writing. They do everything in their power to avoid AI content detectors. They don't really add value to your text, and to the eyes of a really trained reviewer or an editor, a humanized text will just stick out. So I really don't see humanizers as a solution. It's fun to play around with humanizers, but beyond that, I don't see any real value to them. So can we trust the information generated by ChatGPT? I am still skeptical about ChatGPT, but with these academic tools like Consensus, Elicit, Answer This, PaperPal, the information so far has been pretty accurate. And yeah, and also I'm not really worried about the accuracy due to the frameworks I have in place, because I'm using these AI tools just as assistants to quickly bring me information. If I have a young student, if I ask them a question, I will not expect them to do the fact checking and always come up with accurate answers. I, as the person who's slightly above the assistant, several ranks above in most cases, I will always fact check before I take in an information and include into my manuscript. That is the same way that I would use an AI tool as well. I let the AI bring me all information at once, but when I decide I want to use this information in my manuscript, I'll always do a human check. So if you do that, it shouldn't be a problem. Um, I don't think I have a specific percentage there, Mr. Amit, for you. But at every single stage, as I mentioned, there is an AI tool that can help you. So I am willing to use AI tools at every single stage while still holding the control. To answer your question in a very simple way, I let Litmaps bring me literature, but I'll also cross-check the availability of literature on Google Scholar. I let SciSpace build the literature matrix for me, but I'll not copy the information. I'll make that to have an overarching view of what is out there in literature. The decision is still mine, the writing would still be mine. I would let PaperPal proofread my manuscripts, but I would still check every single grammar check that goes into my manuscript. I'll not allow an AI tool to make any global changes on my manuscript. So I don't have a percentage for you, but I'm sure AI can help you at every single stage. I don't really have a solution there, Mr. Pankaj. If any, I would say please do not use the humanizer. That kind of spoils the entire writing style in most cases. I'm not sure which conference asks for 0% AI content, Mrs. Radha, because it's unachievable in most cases, right? Most of the publishers, most of the conferences, they have a tolerance of around anywhere between 10 to 20% of AI content is what I have seen in general. So when it comes to plagiarism, 10% is the threshold. When it comes to AI content, I think you should keep it under 15%, or in worst case scenario, say in case of conference abstracts where the content is really very small, very pithy content, keep it under 5 to 7% is the most you can do. 0% is not always achievable. Um, I'm not sure how to bring it down to 0%, considering there are going to be overlaps. Very few cases where you can really get 0%. It's okay to have a small overlap, is what I feel. You can use SciSpace, Mrs. Lakshmi, for summarizing your literature survey, provided that is just the starting point. That does not become your actual literature survey. It's okay. So what do? I have a team of editors. So I, as a person, as an individual, I majorly work with faculty across institutions, across disciplines, to train them in scientific writing and publishing, right, writing and publishing. I also work with faculty across institutions to explore how best AI can be introduced into classrooms for their teaching requirements, right from lesson plans to assessments, what AI can do, what it cannot do, and how can we gently introduce students to start using AI without them missing out on developing their core skills. This is what I do as a person. And when it comes to my startup, it's essentially a team of editors who edit manuscripts, who proofread manuscripts, who restructure your manuscripts to give you a better chance of moving your manuscript away from desk rejection and getting you into the peer review and ultimately into the published phase. I'm not sure if I am the right person to suggest a career path for Gen Z, but what I would say is for students, if you find there is a very nuanced process, programming is still not dead. Do not give up on programming. Do not give up on learning the core skills of writing, programming, or hands on skills that would still have some value even with the introduction of AI. Because right now, nobody can predict what the next half a decade or decade will look like. Technology is one thing, but policies is what will still decide how much of carriers will exist and what will get washed out. So for now, I would still be the same sincere student, learning every skill that is possible. The more difficult the skill, the more interested the student has to be in learning the skill, so that they can really stand out in today's really crowded world. I think that part has not really changed much. So creating supporting documents as in Mrs. Okay, Miss Pratibha. If you mean cover letters, summaries, highlights, and so on, I think AI tools do a good job of helping you create that. And some of these documents, you don't even have to worry about AI content. You can just go ahead and use them. And with respect to tools for plagiarism, I would strongly urge you to not use free AI tools, because if a tool is free, normally your data is the price you are paying for using the tool. And plagiarism check is a pretty costly affair. For a plag check to be really accurate, the tool has to have access to all paid papers as well. And that does not come for free. Why will a tool pay to get access to papers and then offer the plag check for free to you? Makes no sense as a business model, right? I would rather go with institutional Turnitin access or any of the other reliable but institution associated tools for doing my blood check. So Psi and Q1 is a term that is used across multiple indexing. Q1 means it's an 8 percentages, it's a percentile metric. So Q1 exists across multiple indexing. Psi is just one of the indexing. Q1 is the category of journals. They are the top-notch journals, no matter which indexing you are talking about. Most of these indexing sites, they have 4 quartiles: Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And Q1 is your top level journals, the best journals in the classification or the category. And to find appropriate journals, one of the good choices is to use journal um, finders. I have a very detailed post on LinkedIn. You can just write to me, I'll share the post. But journal finders are not sufficient. You should have a multi-part strategy to find the right journal, starting by screening your own references in your manuscript, your own literature connections to find where most of your papers are coming from. And then determining if the journal is good, if the journal is a properly indexed journal. So it's a step-by-step process. Is the journal good enough? Is it legitimate? Does it have an APC? Can I afford the APC? Is my paper a good match to the aims and scope of the journal? Even if so, is the journal really interested in publishing papers in my field in the recent days? So these are like check boxes that you have to check one after the other before you can find the right journal. You will have a detailed post on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn details suggest above you. Yeah, so if you cannot join the WhatsApp group, just drop me a message on WhatsApp. I'll just add you to a different group. You cannot use notebook LM pictures in your paper unless those images are editable. If the final output is editable and you can verify every single aspect of the image, then yes. If not, you should be careful. Perplexity is definitely a good choice, especially considering that it offered most of its advanced features for Apple users recently. But it is still an AI. I would just treat it like how I would treat any other AI. And Mr. Ronak, I don't think AI is better than humans because there are certain things that humans are really good at. AI follows rules, it just can regurgitate what already exists. So you can use an AI to generate all the Ghibli images that you want. But will a Ghibli studio be born out of an AI? I'm not really sure. So yes, I'm still a fan of humans, though I talk about AI day in and day out. Um, to answer your question, Mrs. Lakshmi, I don't have a suggestion on top of my head at the moment. So drill bit or Turnitin depends on. So Turnitin is obviously uh, the most popular choice. So drill bit also, I have seen quite a number of institutions use drill bit as well, depending on what your institution wants. So where are you submitting your thesis or your paper to? Make sure you use the same tool that the publisher or the institution uses. The institution uses, most of the publishers, they use Turnitin. So Turnitin happens to be a better choice. And Scopus index journals, Mr. Satish, you will find them on the Scopus site. I cannot, it's not like you have so many journals and you will have to pick a journal for your particular paper. You cannot even pick journals in your field. Every paper has to be very carefully matched with its target journal. So it's not just a case of having a list of journals. Okay. I think that kind of brings me to the end of the Q&A. And yeah, I guess that's that on my end. And yeah, there's just 1 minute for the other speaker to join in. So considering that, I would say my goodbyes. You have my contact
Priyanka,
details. You can
ma'am,
reach me as well.
hello, ma'am. Priyanka, please, can you on your screen for a formal vote of thanks?
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. I'm expressing my sincere gratitude to Dr. K.S. Soumyarani for delivering an insightful and thought-provoking session on harnessing AI ethically for scientific writing and publishing. Your session clearly highlighted how the AI can be used with an ethical mindset, and I'm sure our participants have understood the areas emphasized by you, and they will be easily able to use the cutting edge platforms to successfully generate their desired results. Thank you again, ma'am, for your time, sincere efforts, and exceptional expertise in delivering a thoughtfully engaging session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
Please
so
stay with
much.
us for the picture.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Just, ma'am, 2 minutes. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Participants, kindly wait till the resource person for the next session comes online. Thank you. Priyanka, can we have an official welcome?
Yes, sir. Just a moment.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone.
Very good evening to you,
Good
ma'am.
evening, ma'am. On behalf of us and everyone, including the participants, a very warm welcome. On the second session of today, we have with us Dr. Monica Gupta. She will be addressing the topic of designing effective questionnaire for research. Dr. Monica Gupta is working as a professor at Chitrakar Business School, Chandigarh. Dr. Gupta has 20 years of expertise in academics and corporate, which can be associated with several reputed national and international organizations. She has received the National Award for Best Senior Faculty by Novel Research Academy, Puducherry. She has offered teaching assignments, FDPs, workshops, consultancy services, and she has also acted as a research person for several programs. Thus, she has contributed a lot throughout her career. I'm very sure, ma'am, that the participants are looking forward for this session on learning how they can make a very effective questionnaire. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. Everything is visible.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, learners, let us start today's session on designing effective questionnaires for research. So, the content or the topics that we are going to cover today are introduction to questionnaire design, principles, ensuring reliability, validity, and sensitivity in questionnaires, then pilot testing and refining the questionnaire, and ethical considerations in questionnaire design. So this is a view of the subtopics under these topics. You can just have a glance of it because as we proceed further during this session, we will discuss these pointers one by one. I request everyone to have a notebook and pen ready, and you can perform the activities side by side, and you can participate actively during the session. You can just mention your responses in the chat window or your queries. So I expect everyone will be able to understand how to design a complete methodologically sound questionnaire, compute and interpret reliability and validity measures for multi-item scales, refine questionnaire items through pilot testing, cognitive interviewing, and ethical review, justify questionnaire design decisions in line with doctoral and publication standards. So, as we all know, in research, questionnaires play a vital role in gathering structured, quantifiable data. These are especially useful for measuring behaviors, attitudes, and perceptions in the fields such as consumer behavior. Today, we will focus on two types of questionnaires: self-administered, where participants will fill out forms independently, offering privacy, minimal bias, and interviewer administered, which allows researchers to clarify responses but may introduce interviewer bias. The primary goals of a well-designed questionnaire are to ensure data sensitivity, reliability, and validity. Reliable data is consistent. Valid data measures what we intend, and sensitivity ensures respondents are comfortable answering the questions. So, balancing these elements reduces respondents' burden, keeping them engaged and yielding better responses. So, this is what I have just mentioned as an introduction to the topic. Okay.
Participants, you can write your questions in the Q&A box. And ma'am, you can also directly see when you see into your screen, the Q&A might be visible.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Okay. So what I was discussing is the primary goal of a well-designed questionnaire are to ensure data sensitivity, reliability, and validity. Reliable data is consistent. Data measures what we intend to measure, and sensitivity ensures respondents are comfortable answering the questions. And balancing these elements reduces respondent burden, keeping them engaged and yielding better responses. Now, I just want to know which questionnaire type reduces social desirability bias. You can mention your responses, either A or B. Yes, please. Okay. So the option is self-administered questionnaires. Similarly, a key objective of a questionnaire design is increasing survey complexity or reducing respondent burden. So it is reducing respondent burden. Now you can perform an activity. You can draft a self-administered question on brand perception using Google Forms. I hope you are aware of way to use Google Forms. I can give demonstration of using or creating a Google form if you like. First, to perform the activity, I'll explain the steps. In the meantime, you can make up your mind to perform the activity and you can do it on the paper pen. So the steps to perform the activity are: you can define brand perception objective, then formulate a clear question, then choose a response scale, and then you can set up this in Google Forms. So the first step to define brand perception, to define the objectives, you can start by identifying specific aspect of brand perception to be measured. In this case, focus is on customer perception of brand quality, whether customers view the brand positively or in terms of quality. The second step, formulate a clear question. So you can write a straightforward question that captures the essence of brand perception without ambiguity. Then choosing a response scale. So you can select a scale that allows respondents to indicate their perception accurately. So what I am trying to say here in the step 2 is, I can give you an example for formulating a clear question, like how would you rate the quality of our brand compared to others you use? So the 5-point Likert scale suitable here can be ranging from much lower quantity to same quantity to much higher quantity. Now, to set this in the Google form, you can follow certain steps. You can open Google Forms and create a new form. Then you can click on the question field and type a question. Then you can choose multiple choice or linear scale as the question type. Then you can enter the answer choices to match the 5-point scale provided above. And then you can set the question as required to ensure respondents provide an answer. Now, after this activity, if you are able to perform simultaneously, what your final question in the Google form look like? So here is an example I have displayed on the screen. So the question, how would you rate the quality of our brand compared to others you use? And I have mentioned the scale. So what we are trying to say here is, this is self-administered question and response format that provides straightforward assessment of brand perception, capturing the respondent's comparative view of brand quality. Using Google Forms allows respondents to answer anonymously and honestly, making it easier to collect unbiased data. I hope I am able to clarify this first point. Now, the next concept or the second pointer is focusing on principles of questionnaire design. So understanding the research problem is foundational to designing effective questionnaires. You may start by defining research objectives, what you aim to measure and why. Next, Identify your key variables. Dependent variables are the main outcomes, such as customer satisfaction. Independent variables could include factors like age or income, and control variables are constants like product type. In consumer behavior, understanding how these variables interact helps construct questions that accurately capture relationships. For example, if studying brand loyalty, questions should align with factors like satisfaction, quality, and perceived value, directly connecting to research objectives. Now you can test. Dependent variables are option A or B, factors that remain constant or outcomes being measured. So just think for a while. The answer is outcomes being measured. Next, research objectives help to either determine question relevance or to increase sample size. It is determine question relevance. Now you can perform an activity to understand or explore this concept better. You can identify dependent and independent variables for a brand loyalty survey. Now, how to perform this? I'll explain the steps. So you need to define the research objective. For this, you can establish the goal, such as identifying factors affecting brand loyalty. Then you can identify dependent variables or DVs, which in this case is, yes, it is brand loyalty, the primary outcome that the survey aims to measure. Then you can identify potential independent variables, which could include product quality, that is, how customers perceive the product's quality. Then customer satisfaction, that is, the level of satisfaction with previous purchases. Then customer service, that is, quality and accessibility of customer support. Then price perception, that is, how customers view the product's price relative to quality. Then brand image, that is customers' overall impression of the brand. Now, the solution could be, as I have just mentioned, by identifying the DVs and IVs, the researchers can structure questions around how each IV affects the DV. For instance, questions about customer satisfaction might indicate whether it significantly influences brand loyalty. Now, moving on to the next part, question types. So choosing question types is essential for effective questionnaire design. Closed-ended questions offer structured responses, ideal for quantitative data analysis, while open-ended questions allow respondents to share detailed insights. Each type serves as a unique purpose in consumer behavior. Scales enhance measurement accuracy. The Likert scale gauges agreement intensity. The semantic differential scale contrasts attitude, for example, from unfavorable to favorable. And the Gutman scale measures hierarchical agreement. For example, a Likert scale question like, I am loyal to this brand, on a scale of 1, that is strongly disagree, to 5, that is strongly agree, offers clear data on loyalty intensity. So Likert scale measures hierarchical agreement or agreement intensity. It is agreement intensity. Open-ended questions are best for quantitative data or in-depth qualitative insights. It is in-depth qualitative insights. Now you can perform an activity here. Design a Likert scale question on consumer satisfaction. How to perform this? You can select the attribute to measure. For this, you can choose a specific aspect of customer satisfaction such as overall product satisfaction. Then you can create the statement, that is, you can write a clear statement related to the attribute like, I am satisfied with the quality of this product. Then you can choose the scale, that is, you can decide 5-point Likert scale varying from strongly disagree, which you code as 1, to neutral 3, to strongly agree, coding 5. Then what is the solution? So the example statement is shown here. I am satisfied with the quality of this product, scale from 1 to 5. So this Likert scale question allows respondents to express the degree of their satisfaction, providing quantitative data that can be analyzed to assess overall consumer satisfaction. Now, constructing effective questions with clarity and simplicity. So clear, simple, and unbiased questions improve response quality. Ambiguity and complexity can confuse respondents, affecting data reliability. Clear wording is vital. Avoid jargon and complex phrases. Simplicity means using concise language and focusing on one idea per question. In consumer behavior, leading questions can skew responses. For example, rather than asking, don't you agree that our product is excellent? What should you ask? Just think for a while. A neutral phrase like, how would you rate our product, encourages unbiased responses. And we should avoid double-barreled questions that ask two things simultaneously, such as, how satisfied are you with our service and price? But in actual, each element should be measured separately. So what are ambiguous questions? Either they improve data accuracy or confuse respondents. Yes, these confuse respondents. Leading questions. Either they encourage unbiased answers or influence responses. Yes, these influence responses. Now, you can explore an activity to understand this further. You can rewrite a biased question to be neutral and clear. But how to do this? You can identify the biased question. For instance, a biased question might read, don't you agree that our product is the best in the market? As you can see on the screen. Now you can remove leading language. What is leading language here? Identify and remove it. So you can rewrite the question to remove the bias and lead. You can use neutral phrasing that doesn't imply an unexpected answer. Then you can rephrase the question. And the rephrased question could be, just think for a while. Yes. How would you rate our product compared to others in the market? So you can see the example solution of a biased and a neutral question. So the revised question eliminates any leading language, allowing respondents to provide a more honest evaluation of the product. Hope you are able to understand what we are discussing here. Constructing effective questions, language and tone considerations. Language and tone are crucial in questionnaire design to ensure clarity and inclusivity. Questions must be crafted in language appropriate for the respondent's literacy and cultural context. For instance, in a consumer behavior survey targeting general consumers, avoid technical jargon and complex terminology. Neutral tone prevents bias. Phrasing questions without emotionally charged or suggestive words is essential to avoid influencing responses. Cultural sensitivity is also the key, ensuring that the language respects diverse backgrounds and avoids culturally specific references that might confuse or alienate some respondents. A question like, how does our product enhance your life? Should instead be neutral. Just think, what can it be? How would you rate the usefulness of our product? So neutral tone helps in either influencing responses positively or reducing response bias. Yes, it is reduce response bias. Culturally insensitive questions either increase response accuracy or may confuse or offend respondents. Yes, these may confuse or offend respondents. Now, to understand this further, you can perform an activity by rewriting a question to improve its cultural sensitivity and neutrality. To perform this, you can identify culturally insensitive wording. Now see original question you can see on the screen. How often do you celebrate Christmas or any other festival with family gatherings? Now you can adjust to generalize for all cultures. Avoid assumptions about specific cultural practices. Reframe the question to apply to all participants. So what could be the rephrase question here? Just think for a while. Yes. Now you can see first question, cultural specific, and thus culturally sensitive question. How often do you participate in family gatherings for special occasions? So you see the revised question respects cultural diversity, allowing people of different backgrounds to answer without cultural bias. Please note down these points. Now, question order and flow. The order and flow of questions are crucial as the questions themselves. Logical sequencing helps respondents navigate through the questionnaire naturally, preventing confusion or survey fatigue. Start with broader questions to build comfort, then funnel down to more specific ones, a structure known as the funnel structure. For example, in a consumer survey, start with a question like, how often do you buy skincare products? And then follow with specific product related questions. Transition statements provide context, helping guide respondents between different question sections. Balancing between general and specific questions keeps respondents engaged without overwhelming them, enhancing response quality. So a funnel structure starts with specific questions or general questions? Yes, it starts with general questions. Transition statements help either maintain questionnaire flow or reduce question count. Yes, maintain questionnaire flow. Yes. Now you can perform an activity. You can arrange a set of questions into logical sequence. Thank you. Now, how to perform this activity? You can identify general questions. For example, how often do you purchase skincare products? So what we are trying to say here, start with general questions about product usage. Then move to specific questions. So you can follow with detailed questions about satisfaction, product quality, and brand trust. So what could be the example sequence? Any guesses for answer? Just think for a while. See the solution here. Example sequence could be: how often do you purchase skincare products? How satisfied are you with the results of the product? How likely are you to recommend this brand to others? So, this funnel approach starts with the broader questions to ease respondents into the survey, moving towards specific and reflective questions for richer data. Now, ensuring reliability, types and techniques. Reliability is a measure of consistency in a questionnaire. Test, retest reliability checks if the questionnaire produces similar results over time, suitable for stable traits like brand loyalty. Internal consistency examines if related questions measure the same construct, commonly assessed using Cronbach's alpha. Inter-rater reliability is relevant when responses are assessed by multiple raters, ensuring consistency among them. Techniques for enhancing reliability include using uniform question phrasing and standardized response formats, both of which help reduce variability in responses. For example, a consumer survey on brand trust should maintain similar language across all questions about trust factors to ensure consistent interpretation. So, internal consistency is measured with either test-retest method or Cronbach's alpha. Yes, it is Cronbach's alpha. Reliability ensures either consistent results over time or variable responses. Yes, consistent results over time. Now, to explore this, you can perform an activity by calculating Cronbach's alpha for sample data on SPSS. How to do this? Now, you may use some sample data like this. In column 1, you can mention the respondents. In question 1 or in the column 2, you can mention question 1, satisfaction, and the responses on the Likert scale that you have obtained. Question 2 on third column related to trust. And then in column 4, you can mention recommendations. So this is just a sample data table, how to create it and how to put it in SPSS. If you know, it's okay. Otherwise, I'll mention the steps. Now to perform this activity, you need to open SPSS. You need to enter the data in SPSS. Then go to Analyze tab, click Scale and click Reliability Analysis. Select all 3 questions as items, set model to alpha and click OK. And you can see the results. So, what is the solution? A high Cronbach's alpha, typically more than or equal to 0.7, suggests internal consistency, meaning these items consistently measure aspects of consumer satisfaction. You can refer to the books like Here et al. And then Malhotra and Dash, then Zickman and many more. Based on your interest, you can refer to these books. Now, using Cronbach's alpha for internal consistency. Cronbach's alpha is widely used to measure internal consistency, confirming that items in a scale are all related to the same construct. A Cronbach's alpha of 0.7 or higher is generally acceptable, indicating reliable inter-item consistency. Calculating Cronbach's alpha in software like SPSS involves generating an alpha coefficient for each item and reviewing item total correlations. High values indicate that each question aligns well with the overall scale. In consumer behavior studies, Cronbach's alpha helps verify that questions about satisfaction, trust, and consistently capture overall consumer sentiment. Now, a Cronbach's alpha of 0.85 suggests poor consistency or good consistency. Yes, it is good consistency. Internal consistency helps in either measuring unrelated items or ensuring reliable responses across items. Yes, it is ensuring reliable responses across items. Now, to explore this, you can perform an activity. You can compute Cronbach's alpha using sample data in SPSS. You can use data like this. Like we have taken respondents on in column 1. First, construct quality and its related responses in column 2, satisfaction related column 3, loyalty related column 4. You can design as per your requirements. Now you can perform these steps as I have mentioned earlier. You can input the data in SPSS, navigate to analyze by clicking the tab, then click scale, then click reliability analysis, add all 3 questions to the item list, select alpha under model and click OK. So the activity reinforces calculating internal consistency across survey items, helping ensure reliable data on consumer behavior. Now, validity in questionnaires, definition and types. Validity ensures that a questionnaire accurately measures what it is intended to. For instance, in consumer behavior, validity might determine if a loyalty survey truly assesses loyalty factors such as satisfaction and trust. Content validity involves comprehensive coverage of the relevant topics, often reviewed by experts. Construct validity checks if questions align with theoretical concepts, analyzing if brand trust truly reflects underlying dimensions of quality, satisfaction, etc. Criterion validity compares results with external standards or benchmarks, helping confirm the accuracy of questionnaire in real-world settings. High validity confirms that the data collected is both reliable and meaningful for research. Content validity ensures either comprehensive topic coverage or consistent results over time. Yes, it is comprehensive topic coverage. Construct validity aligns with either statistical standards or theoretical concepts. It is theoretical concepts. Now, you can perform an activity by identifying constructs for a customer satisfaction questionnaire. I have taken this as an example. You can go as per your study. For this, you can define constructs like satisfaction, product quality, and brand loyalty in this case. Now, you can go for example constructs and associated questions to understand the concept. Like for first construct, satisfaction, the question could be, how satisfied are you with the product's performance? Then product quality related question, how would you rate the durability of the product? To assess brand loyalty, you may ask, how likely are you to purchase from this brand again? What we are trying to say here is each construct helps to measure different aspects of consumer satisfaction, offering a multidimensional view. Content validity. Content validity guarantees that a questionnaire covers relevant aspects of the concept. For instance, a consumer loyalty survey must address satisfaction, brand quality, and trustworthiness. Involving experts is crucial. They provide insights into whether the questions fully capture all necessary elements. A checklist for topic coverage helps ensure no area is missed. After gathering expert feedback, adjust questions as needed to improve comprehensiveness. For example, if experts suggest adding a section on brand ethics for a brand loyalty survey, integrate this aspect to cover consumer perceptions of corporate responsibility comprehensively. Content validity is assessed by either statistical analysis or reviewing topic coverage with experts. Yes, it is reviewing topic coverage with experts. Expert feedback improves either data collection speed or content comprehensiveness. It is content comprehensiveness. You can perform an activity. You can create a checklist of topics for a consumer loyalty survey. It is an example. Now the checklist solution could be, you can make pointers like brand trust, product quality, customer satisfaction, purchase frequency, likelihood of recommendation. So these topics are central to understanding the factors influencing customer loyalty, covering both attitudinal and behavioral dimensions. Construct validity. Construct validity ensures that questionnaire items accurately measure theoretical constructs. For example, if assessing customer loyalty, each item should reflect loyalty-related theories like trust, satisfaction, and product reliability. Factor analysis is a common method to test construct validity, as it groups items based on correlations, confirming they measure the same construct. Theoretical grounding supports construct validity by aligning questions with established theories. For instance, satisfaction should be measured in alignment with frameworks of consumer satisfaction. High construct validity indicates that questionnaire items are measured intended theoretical dimensions consistently. Factor analysis is used for either validating theoretical constructs or increasing response rates. It is validating theoretical constructs. Construct validity aligns items with either random concepts or theoretical frameworks. It is theoretical frameworks. Now, you can perform a basic factor analysis using sample data. Now you can see sample data table here. In first column, we have taken responses, and in other columns, we have taken different constructs as per our study. Like in this case, we have taken constructs as quality, trust, loyalty, and satisfaction. And in row 1, we have respondents' responses on 5-point Likert scale. Then third row, we have responses of second respondent, similarly other respondents. So number of rows must be equal to number of respondents plus heading title row. Now you can perform SPSS steps as we have discussed earlier. But now what to do here? See where is the difference? You load the data in SPSS, then you click analyze, then you have to click dimension reduction and click factor. Then select all the constructs as variables. Then you can run the analysis and interpret component loadings. If you know how to use SPSS, it's fine. Otherwise, I can show it. Factor analysis clusters questions, confirming if they represent the same underlying factors like satisfaction or loyalty. Criterion validity. Criterion validity tests how well a questionnaire aligns with established standards. For instance, a brand loyalty survey with high criterion validity will correlate well with actual consumer purchase patterns. Two main types are predictive and concurrent validity. Predictive validity measures how well questionnaire outcomes predict future behavior, such as a satisfaction survey forecasting repeat purchases. Concurrent validity checks for correlation with established tools, confirming accuracy by comparing results. High criterion validity indicates the questionnaire is both practical and relevant in real-world applications. Validity measures either past behaviors or future behaviors. It is future behaviors. Concurrent validity involves either comparing to established tools or testing item reliability. Is comparing to established tools. Now you can design a question that could predict future behavior, such as repeat purchases. How to do this? You can define the predictive behavior. For this, you can start by identifying the behavior you wish to predict. In this example, the focus is on repeat purchase intent, which is critical for evaluating customer loyalty and forecasting future sales. So the example, then you can formulate the question. You can construct a clear forward-looking question. The question should encourage respondents to think about their likelihood of engaging in the behavior in the specified time frame. The example question is, how likely are you to purchase from this brand again in the next 6 months? Then you can choose an appropriate answer scale. You can provide a scale that allows respondents to indicate their likelihood accurately. A 5-point Likert scale works well here, ranging from very unlikely to neutral to very likely. Then you can consider additional predictive elements. For a more detailed analysis, you could add up follow-up questions such as, what factors might influence your decision to repurchase? How many items have you purchased from this brand in the past year? Now the final question and the scale. So you can see the question and the scale on the screen. How likely are you to purchase from this brand again in the next 6 months? Scale ranging from very unlikely with code 1 to neutral, code 3 to very likely, code 5. This predictive question and scale offers insights into respondents' purchase intentions, providing data that can be used to forecast future brand loyalty trends. By analyzing responses, researchers can identify customer segments more inclined to repurchase, offering actionable insights for marketing strategies. Now, sensitivity in questionnaires. Sensitivity is essential for capturing slight changes in respondents' attitudes or behaviors. This concept is critical in consumer behavior studies, where attitudes may shift subtly due to changes in product perception or brand trust. Sensitive questions allow researchers to gauge these minor differences without influencing responses unduly. This means designing questions that can identify small but meaningful changes, helping uncover deeper insights into consumer attitudes. For instance, a question on brand preference could range from strongly prefer to neutral to prefer competitor, detecting slight preference results. Sensitive, sensitive questions are essential for either capturing broad trends or detecting subtle changes. Yes, it is detecting subtle changes. Sensitivity helps in either simplifying responses or improving response accuracy. It is improving response accuracy. You can develop a question that captures slight shifts in a product preference. For this, you can define product preferences and then you can formulate the question. So the example question is, I have already discussed, how likely are you to choose product A over product B due to its eco-friendly packaging? Scale options in this case range from very unlikely to neutral to very likely. This scale allows respondents to indicate even slight preferences, providing nuanced insights into shifts in consumer choices. Now, ensuring sensitivity. Sensitivity in questionnaires often depend on the scale used. For example, a 7-point Likert scale provides more room for nuanced responses than a 5-point scale, making it ideal for capturing subtle shifts. In consumer behavior, where variability, framing questions neutrally is vital to avoid pushing respondents towards socially acceptable answers. For instance, instead of asking, do you think buying eco-friendly products is the right choice? A more sensitive approach would be, how important is environmental impact when making a purchase? This encourages honest, reflective responses without moral pressure. A 7-point scale provides limited response options or greater response sensitivity. It is greater response sensitivity. Avoiding social desirability helps by increasing honesty in responses or simplifying questions. It is increasing honesty in responses. You can design a neutral question on environmental impact in consumer choices. For this, you can identify desired information and then you can draft a neutral question. Actually, you should do it simultaneously here. Okay. So, example question could be, how important is the environmental impact of a product in your purchasing decisions? Response scale may vary from not important at all to moderately important to extremely important. Neutral phrasing ensures respondents feel free to express varying levels of concern about environmental impact without feeling pressured. Handling sensitive topics. Handling sensitive topics requires a respectful, thoughtful approach. Topics related to personal values, ethics, or private preferences may cause discomfort or reluctance to answer honestly. Using indirect questioning can alleviate discomfort, such as asking about general opinions on environmental issues rather than individual behaviors. Ethical considerations include maintaining respondent privacy, assuring confidentiality, and framing questions to avoid intrusive language. For example, instead of directly asking, "Do you always recycle?" an indirect question might be, just think for a while. How can we replace direct question, "Do you always recycle?" Indirect question might be, "How common is recycling in your household?" This approach helps respondents answer more openly. Sensitive topics require direct questioning or thoughtful framing. It is thoughtful framing. Indirect questions help by increasing respondent comfort or reducing data quality. It is increasing respondent comfort. Please make a note of it. You can rephrase a direct question on recycling to an indirect format. You can identify direct question. Did you recycle regularly? And then you rephrase it for indirectness. Just think for a while. Yes, it can be, "How common is recycling among people in your household?" So, indirect phrasing reduces personal pressure, allowing respondents to answer without feeling judged, which can lead to more accurate data collection on sensitive behaviors. Importance of pilot testing. Pilot testing is a crucial step in questionnaire development, allowing researchers to identify issues before full deployment. Through pilot testing, we can spot unclear or confusing questions, determine if any part of the survey disrupt the flow, and assess how perform in capturing reliable and valid data. Testing on a smaller representative sample lets researchers gather feedback and make necessary refinements. For example, in a consumer behavior survey, if respondents find a question like, "How often do you purchase eco-friendly products?" vague, it can be rephrased to, "How often do you purchase products labeled as eco-friendly?" Just try and note the difference. Pilot testing ultimately improves clarity, flow, and response accuracy, ensuring the final questionnaire is optimally designed for comprehensive data collection. So, pilot testing primarily helps in reducing questionnaire length or identifying potential issues. It is identifying potential issues. Pilot testing should ideally be conducted on a small representative sample or the entire target population. It is it is a small representative sample. You can create a sample pilot test question and collect feedback from peers. For this, you can draft a sample pilot test question. For example, "How satisfied are you with the customer support from this product?" You can use a 5-point Likert scale ranging from very dissatisfied to very satisfied. Then you can collect peer feedback. You can ask peers if they found the question clear and if any adjustments were needed. You can document any feedback to refine the question. Testing with peers can reveal wording issues or ambiguities, improving clarity and data reliability in the final questionnaire. So, how to conduct pilot test? Conducting a successful pilot test involves careful planning. Start by selecting a sample that represents your target demographic, as their experience with reflect actual respondent experiences. You can use open-ended questions to capture their impressions about the questionnaires' clarity, wording, and overall flow. For example, ask, did you find any question unclear or difficult to answer? This feedback is invaluable for refining questions and addressing any confusing elements. After collecting responses, analyze data to identify patterns in feedback and make necessary revisions. If major changes are made, consider repeating the pilot test to confirm improvements, ensuring that the final questionnaire is as accurate and user-friendly as possible. The primary aim of feedback collection in a pilot test is to shorten the survey or improve clarity and flow. It is to improve clarity and flow. If major changes are made post-pilot, researchers should proceed to the full sample or conduct another pilot test. They should conduct another pilot test. You can develop feedback questions for a pilot test on product preferences. How can you do this? You can identify aspects to be tested. Clarity, flow, and relevance of questions in a product preference survey. Then you can go for sample feedback questions such as, were any questions unclear or confusing? Did the order of the questions make sense? Were there any questions you felt irrelevant? So sample feedback questions I have just mentioned. Targeted feedback questions help identify specific areas for improvement, enhancing question relevance and response accuracy. Cognitive interviewing. Thank you. Cognitive interviewing is a valuable technique in questionnaire design, revealing how respondents interpret and understand each question. By having respondents think aloud while answering, researchers can detect any misunderstandings or biases in real time. This method also includes probing questions where the interviewer asks for a clarification on certain responses. For example, if a respondent hesitates on a question about brand loyalty, probing can reveal whether the term was unclear. Cognitive interviewing helps refine question wording, reducing the risk of misinterpretation and enhancing overall data quality. This method is especially beneficial for complex topics like consumer behavior, where nuanced understanding is essential. Cognitive interviewing is primarily used to simplify questions or understand respondent thought processes. It is to understand a respondent's thought processes. The think aloud method helps identify survey length issues or misinterpretations or biases. Misinterpretation or biases. Conduct a cognitive interview with a peer on a sample question. You can choose a sample question like, how often do you buy organic products? Ask peers to think aloud. Encourage the peer to explain their thought process as they answer. Please note. Then use probing questions. What do you understand by organic in this context? Cognitive interviews reveal how respondents interpret questions, enabling refinements to reduce misunderstandings. Ethical considerations in questionnaire design. Ethical considerations are critical in questionnaire design, safeguarding respondents' rights and privacy. Informed consent is a foundational ethical step, informing participants about the purpose of the study, the voluntary nature of their participation, and how their data will be used. Anonymity and confidentiality are also paramount, especially with sensitive topics, to ensure respondents feel secure in sharing honest answers. Handling sensitive data requires adherence to data protection standards, including secure storage and limited access. In a survey on consumer behavior, respecting respondents' privacy encourages trust, leading to more accurate and candid responses. Anonymity protects data analysis or respondent identity. It protects identity. Informed consent involves explaining the study's purpose or collecting only demographic data. It is explaining the study's purpose. You can draft an informed consent statement for a questionnaire on brand perception. For this, you can outline key points like purpose, data, confidentiality, voluntary participation, and then you can draft sample consent statement. You can just think for a while or write on a paper sample consent statement. So it could be something like this. Your participation in this brand perception survey is voluntary. All responses will be kept confidential and used solely for research purposes. You may withdraw at any time. A well-crafted consent statement reassures participants and aligns with ethical research practices. Informed consent. Informed consent is essential in maintaining ethical standards in research, especially when collecting data from participants. It ensures respondents are fully aware of the study's purpose, procedures, expected duration, and the ways their data will be used. This fosters a transparent relationship with participants and upholds their rights. Key elements of informed consent include a clear explanation of the study's goals, a statement that participation is voluntary, and assurance of data confidentiality. So, key elements of informed consent include a clear explanation of the study's goals and a statement that participation is voluntary and assurance of data confidentiality. For online surveys, an electronic acknowledgement can serve as a consent. Please note this. Whereas traditional research often uses signed forms. In consumer behavior studies, consent is crucial, particularly if sensitive data is collected. For instance, if studying brand loyalty, respondents should know that their data will only be used for research, reinforcing trust. Informed consent ensures that participation is voluntary and informed or mandatory for all. It is voluntary and informed. Informed consent forms typically include only demographic questions or study purpose and confidentiality details. It is study purpose and confidentiality details. You can draft an informed consent paragraph for a survey on brand loyalty? Just think for a while or write on a paper. You can include study purpose and confidentiality assurance. And then you can sample consent paragraph. So, sample consent paragraph could be, this survey aims to study factors affecting brand loyalty. Your responses are confidential and will only be used for this research. Participation is voluntary and you may withdraw at any time. Clear consent enhances trust and ensures ethical compliance. Anonymity and confidentiality. Anonymity and confidentiality are core principles of ethical research, especially when handling sensitive data. Anonymity ensures that a respondent's identity cannot be linked to their responses, which encourages honesty. For example, in a consumer behavior study on buying preferences, anonymity can help respondents feel comfortable answering truthfully. Confidentiality goes further by ensuring that personal information provided by participants is protected and kept secure. Techniques for maintaining these standards include using anonymized IDs for each respondent, storing data in secure databases, and limiting access to only essential personnel. These measures help build participant trust, which in turn improves response accuracy and research reliability. Anonymity means only researchers know the respondents' identities or no link between responses and identity. It is no link between responses and identity. Confidentiality involves limiting access to participant information or asking demographic questions only. It is limiting access to participant information. Outline steps to ensure anonymity in a brand preference survey. You can use anonymized identifiers. Instead of names, you can assign codes like R001, R002, and so on. You can avoid collecting identifying data. You can exclude personal identifiers like email. You can limit data access. You can restrict data access to essential research personnel. Ensuring anonymity protects respondent privacy, encouraging honest responses, and compliance with data protection standards. Handling sensitive data. Sensitive data in research can include personal information, financial details, or opinions on ethical matters. Handling such data responsibly is essential for maintaining research integrity and protecting participants. Guidelines include secure storage protocols such as encryption to prevent unauthorized access, limit data access to necessary personnel only, and clearly communicate data usage policies to respondents. Transparency about data handling builds trust and demonstrates respect for respondents' rights. In consumer behavior studies, sensitive data like shopping habits tied to income should be stored securely, with respondents informed that the data will solely serve research purposes, reinforcing ethical standards. Sensitive data should be shared with all research staff or stored securely with limited access. Yes, it is stored securely with limited access. Transparency in data usage helps improve response rates or build respondent trust. It is to build respondent trust. List 3 strategies to protect sensitive survey data. You can go for data encryption. That is, you can use encryption for both stored and transmitted data. You can access controls. You can limit access to authorized researchers only. Then you can go for regular audits. You can conduct periodic audits to verify data security. Protecting sensitive data maintains ethical standards and safeguards participant information. Now, final sample questionnaire development. Now that we have covered each aspect of questionnaire design, it's time to assemble the final version. We can begin by integrating any insights and changes identified during pilot testing. We can review each question for clarity, ensuring it aligns with study objectives and supports reliable, valid data collection. Verify that sensitive topics are handled with care. Excuse me. Review each question for clarity, ensuring it aligns with study objectives and supports reliable, valid data collection. Verify that sensitive topics are handled with care, respecting respondent privacy through measures like anonymity and confidentiality. Use a checklist to ensure that each element, reliability, sensitivity, flow, and ethics is addressed. This comprehensive approach will create a questionnaire that is publication ready, meeting standards for academic research and aligning with best practices for participant respect and data integrity. The final questionnaire should be left unchanged after the initial design or refined based on pilot test feedback. Yes, it should be refined based on pilot test feedback. Publication-ready questionnaires should meet ethical and methodological standards or focus only on response speed. Yes, these should meet ethical and methodological standards. You can review the final questionnaire for publication readiness using a provided checklist. For this, you can use a checklist for review, such as clarity of questions, consistency in response rates, and reliability and validity indicators, such as Cronbach alpha for consistency. Now, sample checklist points can be: are all questions free of bias? Have sensitive data handling measures been implemented? So, a thoughtful review ensures the questionnaire meets publication standards, enhancing data quality and adherence to academic rigor. So, what we have concluded here? You can see sample questionnaire now. After this discussion, I will show what we developed. So, see the sample questionnaire titled Consumer Behavior and Brand Perception Survey. Now, see section 1 on brand perception. Here we have taken three constructs: quality perception, brand trust, and brand reputation. Now, for quality perception, we have taken first question: how would you rate the quality of our brand compared to other brands you use? And we have used a scale ranging from much lower quantity to same quality to much higher quality. Then second construct in this section of brand perception is brand trust. The question is, how much do you trust our brand to deliver quality products? The scale ranges from not at all to moderate to completely. Then third, brand reputation. The question is, how positively do you view our brand's reputation in the market? And the scale ranges from very negative to neutral, positive. Now see section 2 on consumer satisfaction, where we have taken three constructs again: product satisfaction, value for money, and customer service satisfaction. For product satisfaction, we have framed question: how satisfied are you with the reliability of our product? The scale ranges from very dissatisfied to neutral to very satisfied. Value for money. The question is, do you believe our product offers good value for its price? The scale ranges from strongly disagree to neutral to strongly agree. Now, another construct taken under customer satisfaction is customer service satisfaction. Now, see, we have taken product satisfaction, value for money, and customer service satisfaction. The question is, how would you rate your satisfaction with our customer support? And the scale ranges from very poor to neutral to excellent. The third section focuses on customer or consumer loyalty. And here we have taken two constructs, one on repeat purchase intent. The question is, how likely are you to purchase from our brand again in the next 6 months? And the scale varies from very unlikely to neutral to very likely. Another construct we have taken under this section of consumer loyalty is likelihood to recommend. The question is, how likely are you to recommend our brand to friends and family? And the scale ranges from very unlikely to neutral to very likely. Another section, the fourth section, we have drafted on environmental impact on purchasing decisions. Yes, please. You have a question? I think someone raised hand. Yes, please tell me. Okay, let me complete this. Then I'll get back to the questions. Let me complete the slide part first. So another question is environmental concerns in purchasing. The question is, how important is a product's environmental impact in your purchasing decisions? The scale ranges from not important at all to moderately important to extremely important. Another construct can be related to sustainable product preference. The question could be, how likely are you to choose a product from our brand if it is advertised as eco-friendly? The scale varies from very unlikely to neutral to very likely. Section 5 focuses on sensitivity to promotions and discounts. Again, we have taken two constructs here, one related to promotion responsiveness, and the question is, how likely are you to purchase this product when a discount is offered? And the scale varies from very unlikely to neutral to very likely. Another construct is effectiveness of loyalty programs. We have taken the question, how valuable do you find our loyalty rewards program in influencing your purchase decisions? And the scale varies from not at all valuable to moderately valuable to extremely valuable. Then, after this, we can add informed consent. Before beginning the survey, participants see the following consent statement. This survey is a part of a research study on consumer behavior and brand perception. Your participation is voluntary, and all responses will be kept confidential. The data collected will be used solely for research purposes, and you may withdraw at any time. Then we can see some key points related of reliability, validity, and sensitivity. As we have discussed, reliability indicates consistent scales, mostly Likert type are for reliability. Consistent scales, mostly Likert type, are used across questions to ensure stability in responses and allow convex alpha measurement for internal consistency. Validity. For content validity, each section, perception, satisfaction, loyalty, etc., comprehensively covers the intended constructs, ensuring all important aspects are addressed. For construct validity, questions are structured to align with theoretical constructs in consumer behavior, such as trust and satisfaction. Criterion validity, Loyalty intention questions are framed to potentially correlate with future purchase data. Sensitivity questions are phrased neutrally, avoiding bias and minimizing social desirability influence. This comprehensive questionnaire captures essential facets of consumer attitudes, ensuring data that is valid, reliable, and insightful for analyzing consumer brand perception, loyalty, and sensitivity to environmental and promotional factors. Now you can see it in a tabular form. We have taken the objectives in the first column. Then we have mentioned related questions, 2 questions related to each objective in the second column. Then the variables, DVs or IVs. Then the scale that we have taken. And then reliability and validity related information. I hope you can read this. Then the second part. So you see, each question is crafted with appropriate scales and structured to achieve high reliability, validity, and sensitivity, ensuring robust data collection on brand perception, satisfaction, loyalty, environmental concerns, and promotional responses. This table format presents a concise publication-ready questionnaire design. Right? So I hope we are able to cover it in time. Yes, someone was raising hands. Please ask any queries if you have. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Let me open the camera also.
It was a very interesting session, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Just let me see the chat box if anyone else has a question.
Even I'm going through it if we find anything.
It was a very detailed session and highlighting very, very intricate points.
Thank you so
So,
much, sir.
Priyanka, can we begin with a formal vote of thanks?